Hey, church family. In Luke chapter 18, we find these words. To some who were confident of their own righteousness and looked down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. Two men went up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I'm not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He wouldn't even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Jesus told this story that contrasted the prayer offered by a Pharisee with the prayer of a tax collector. In this story, the Pharisee represents a good and moral person, a religious person. The tax collector portrays an immoral and sinful person. While the outward behavior of these two is similar, and what I mean by that is both of them had come to the temple to pray, their words and the attitudes expressed by their prayers are totally opposite. The Pharisee had no doubt whatsoever regarding his own righteousness, while the tax collector is clearly doubtful of his. Jesus' parable shows us that in God's kingdom, things are the opposite of how they are in this present world. In God's kingdom, those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Jesus' parable can be an indictment of all of us religious folk. In fact, this parable addresses what is possibly one of the most serious character flaws Christians ought to confront, and that is self-righteousness. Have you ever considered the fact that the self-righteousness of Christians may be more reprehensible to God than the unrighteousness of sinners? Because it's probably more harmful to the cause of Christ than the most egregious sin of a sinner. God can have mercy on a sinner, but his mercy is lost on the person who doesn't think he needs it. When we Christians represent ourselves as righteous people, exactly what or whose righteousness are we talking about? If we mean our own righteousness, then we're the same as the Pharisee in Jesus' story. As a Christian, the only righteousness that we should ever boast about is God's righteousness. The Bible tells us that there is no one righteous, not even one. But when we enter into relationship with Jesus Christ, his righteousness becomes our righteousness, and hopefully we begin to live righteously. I pray that we would never take that righteousness for granted or begin comparing our goodness to others' sinfulness, because when we do that, we become just like the Pharisee in Jesus' story. Instead, may our prayer always be like that of the tax collector in Jesus' parable. May it be, God have mercy on me, a sinner. Amen.